right. And let me make sure the red light's on. It is. It is. It is.
Ah, it's warm.
Yeah.
Hi there, and welcome to Talking with Jonny, a wholly owned subsidiary of Driving with Jonny. I'm Jonny, and this is Rylic Alexander, Rylic Zander, aka. So Rylic has been the guy behind the lens on all the Talking with Jonny stuff, and I thought it'd be fun to have him on. I don't know. Say something. Talk.
Hi, I'm a person. Sometimes words come out of my mouth.
Exactly.
If you ever hear Johnny laughing while he's talking to y'all, it's probably because I said something crazy on the side, or I'm the one laughing there. So I'm just here usually as a talk track, the laugh track that is, and now I get to show some of my personality and my thoughts that don't really make sense.
And if you don't know Rylic, he's got a channel called Oh Shift, which is a car channel. He does these really cool, kind of like owner documentaries of cars. So there's more than that too. But I met him. Where did we meet? We met at Larry Chen's
The
book
pre-sale party. Yeah.
So our buddy Larry Chen wrote a book, and I was hanging out with my friend Steve, and Steve and I were getting a drink.
Yep, you sure
and
were.
you were standing there with a woman. I don't remember her name.
Tim.
Tam.
Yeah.
And Steve said, you should meet this guy. And I immediately forgot his name and everything about him. Although I kind of remembered he had a cool hat on. I like cool hats. And Steve said something about you doing car videos. And I was always like, oh, interesting. Okay. Fast forward, where did we meet again?
Angeles Crest.
Good Vibes, Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Okay, so Good Vibes. And I was sort of watching him, because I'm actually pretty good at watching people. And
that's creepy.
Everybody's hanging out. He's working. And I said, I like that. I like people that work. And he was like networking, and he was looking at cars, and he was putting mounts on cars and cameras on cars. And here, you hold this. Hold it up. Osmos on cars. Actually, my favorite part is the poor battery. So I was like, is the battery okay?
Nothing.
You're like, no, the battery is not okay. This is ours. And I said, okay, interesting. And then, I have that little Toyota GR Corolla that I've been modifying a lot. And I modified it because it was going to be on Jay Leno's show. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was modifying it because I was modifying it. But then I called in a bunch of favors because it was going to be on Leno's show. And everyone was so cool about it. Like, and I've said this, but like, if you tell people your car is going to be on Leno, they just mail you their sister. They don't care anything to be on Leno. And so I said, oh, Rylic. Okay, I remember this guy. He makes these car documentaries. Hey, do one on my car. Get some more publicity for the people that help me out. And then I watched him work while we were filming it. And you didn't stop. And I said, damn, that's impressive. Like, I've met guys like that before. And I like the work ethic. Because if you make videos for a living, you spend a lot of time on set. Like, you burn time. There's a lot of, not even screwing around, but people get to talking, and you weren't doing that. You were just like hustling. I was doing that. I talked to your dad and Gino. We were just talking smack all day. And I said, and I'd been thinking about starting my own channel. And I'd actually been talking with some people, and it was always some weird thing like, well, I live in like Phoenix, or I have a full-time job, but maybe we could do it on Sundays or whatever. And then, if I got this right, you messed up 2 shots of the video.
So that's actually an interesting story. So I'm gonna tell a little bit of it. So I was like, hey, I want to get a couple of these clean shots. I couldn't find specific shots for like the bay of the car. I was like, I really want to show just how big that intake is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to show it right. And for whatever reason, they just weren't there. But I was like, I know I don't know if I can cuss on here.
You can cuss, yeah.
Okay, I know I fucking took these. Somebody also thought I didn't cuss because it's shift. So he was like, you don't drink, so you don't cuss? And I was like, no, it's literally the opposite. But yeah.
So you came over, you drove to my house, which impressed me. Going, like, I would have just said, screw it, we don't have the shots, like, leave them out. But so he drives over here.
Yeah, so I drove over and I was like, hey, I just want to get these couple quick shots, got the shots. And then afterwards, I heard that little push from the universe saying like, hey, ask this question. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing these days in terms of car content? And I think your response was, I've been thinking about it, and you gave a face, you gave a wince, and I was like, well, what is it? What is that? And you were like, it's the editing. And I was just waiting for more, and there was nothing after that. And I was like, that's it? And I was like, well, I'm here, so we can
Yeah.
do that. And I think we had a meeting after, and then we had like a test run, and it went well. And it was like, oh, yeah, no, this could work.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, the reason I wanted to tell this story is that this over the past week, I was going through content for a completely different car we have coming up next week for JDM Car Week, the 300ZX. And when I was in there, or the MR2, both for that week. And when I was in there, I was like, there's a couple extra shots in here. What the hell is this?
What, really?
Those two files. So I was like, they intentionally got placed in the wrong folder.
Wow.
Like it had to be the universe, because
Oh,
I
that's
wouldn't have,
funny.
I wouldn't have came over here.
And I probably wouldn't have even thought to ask. It was funny. We're standing in my driveway, and it's true. I've just been like I can wrap my head around, doing it. Obviously, I know how to make car videos. I can wrap my head around like coming up with the videos, where we're going to shoot them, the content. I can even shoot. I kind of understand how cameras and mics work and all that. But like the editing, I just couldn't do it. It's so daunting. I was like, ugh. And yeah, it just worked out. That's a very cool story. I did not know that. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh,
I was like, what? I was like, look at you, universe.
interesting.
You might be up to something.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and it's been 2 months.
No, that
And-
flew by. Jeez.
Yeah, it flew by. I was looking with this. This was delivered. I can't remember if it was May 29th or May 31st, but this is when this got delivered, and we used this on the first video. Don't worry, new one's in the mail. But yeah, I think it's been a good 2 months. Channel's kind of doing its own thing already.
Yeah.
you know?
It's been. I've just been excited seeing what everybody's been responding to, right? Like, just how much they're enjoying the content. And it doesn't really matter the form or fashion. I think
Right,
for
right.
me, because I was so net new in this, like I had obviously been filming, but when I started my own channel, I was like, okay, well, I want to structure it this way, because I had a background in advertising. I was so specific. I was like, you have to
Right.
do these things, these things, these things. And it looks like what we've seen for you, people enjoy you, and they enjoy cars. And it's like, it doesn't matter if you're going to a car meet, or you're reviewing a new car, or you're, talking
Just doing
shop.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's become this funny thing where, like, Driving with Jonny was just a bad name out of many possible bad names. I just think everything with the word car or auto has been done, including, to me, I gotta sound like an old guy. Everyone's gonna say, "Oh, you're a jerk," whatever. But like, when I've heard car wow, I was like, that's the end of the internet. Like that we're out of ideas. We're out of ideas involving the word car. You know what I mean?
It's so brilliant, though.
I mean,
because
hey,
you just,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna pick these two words.
I mean, anyways, but then that Driving with Jonny became this Talking with Jonny show, and this is actually the 4th episode. And then the one we did at Goodwood, where I was going to walk around, I'm going to call those Walking with Jonny. We're about to shoot one next week at Pebble. And, I'll be going to like the Drain. I'll probably be in Amelia Island this year. And they're fun and easy to do. And like, even though the views on that weren't that big, the feedback was like awesome. Actually, the best feedback of all of them was just like, because it was me and Schaefer's my best friend, and he's a total car dork. And it was the two of us just walking around and talking about cars, and it was done in a fun way. I think we can do it a little bit better, but yeah, that was like literally a test run, So it's kind of become this funny, already like multifaceted channel in only 2 months. And I think we went over 8,000 subscribers, which is like pretty good for 2 months as far as
Damn good.
I understand YouTube. Making money, which is like kind of crazy.
We like that.
Not much. I mean, here's our profits. But it's been a lot of fun. Okay, so couple things that I've done the last couple episodes. One is just, this will bore you because not a watch guy, but a little tiny bit of watch talk. This is, I have enough watches where I can do this for like a year, do one a week. This is a Doxa, and I think it's like called the 300, probably says around sub 300. Yeah. Sub 300 professional. This was sort of like the original dive watch back in 1969. This is the modern reinterpretation of it, but Swiss company. Someone determined that this orange was the easiest color to read underwater, and you would take this off, put it over your wetsuit. Jacques Cousteau famously, oops, put on backwards. Jacques Cousteau famously wore this watch in all of his TV shows, and it's just a great little diving watch. And it's so funny because it's got this like cool 70s pillowcase, but it's also like the watch is tiny. I mean, it's like a 34 or something like that. It's really super tiny. But yeah, just a cool watch. And again, I think when I got this, it was like just over $2,000, like 2,100 or something like that. So it's one of those watches where if you walk into a party with a bunch of watch heads, they gravitate toward it because they're like, ooh, a Doxa. It's one of those like secret handshake watches, kind of like a IWC. I'm gonna butcher the name, but like the Ingenauer, I believe it's pronounced. So like, that one Patek and the AP Royal Oak and the Ingenauer are all designed by the same dude. I'm butchering Ingenauer. And if you're wearing that IWC, people are like, ooh.
What is the giveaway that that's a Doxa? Like, what can you see that has their signature?
That orange.
That's their color always.
Yeah, but also there's just this design with like the double bezel, the tiny little dial inside of a very large case, the bead of rice bracelet. Well, I should just get a second camera. That requires editing. But anyways, yeah, this is kind of just a very classic dive watch in the watch world. And again, I've been in that situation where, again, $2,000, not cheap, not a ton of money for a watch, and I'll be surrounded by guys wearing like $20,000 to $40,000 to $80,000 watches, and we're all talking about this watch. So it's sort of like it's cool. I like watches like that.
That's something that would make me appreciate a watch, like knowing that it's used for diving. It's my brain is going like, hey, what am I gonna really be using a watch for? But like, I don't have a phone when I'm diving, but also like I'm not going to be diving.
I'm never going to be diving.
No. But it's still cool to know that
there's sharks in the ocean. I saw a movie once about that. So I will not be in the ocean with the sharks. They can have theirs. I'll stay here. But I like a good dive watch because they're just sort of overbuilt and cool. And then other thing was I brought those cars out and kind of just like some set dressing. But these are like a lot of times manufacturers will give you these like cool scale models when you go on a launch. And so this one is the Valkyrie launch, which I went to in Bahrain, and I got to drive the Valkyrie on the F1 track there. If you've seen Drive to Survive or watch F1, you've seen that track. And this, I haven't even taken it out of the box yet. This is the, I think it's the Valkyrie AMR. No, this is just the Valkyrie in different color. But I think I got this one when I got to go for a ride in the AMR in Miami at Homestead, which was pretty cool. I also got to go for a ride in the AMR on the track in Bahrain, which is like just wild because it's a much bigger and better track for driving something like that. Funny story, you like this. So they said, hey, come to Bahrain and you can drive the Valkyrie and you'll fly in, you'll drive it, and you'll go home the next day. And I kind of like, did the math, and I was going to be on the ground in Bahrain for 23 hours. And I was just like, oh, what a schlep. So I said, hey, is there any way, can I come in a day early? I assume you blocked off the whole hotel. Like, I'll just come in a day early. I'll hang out at the track. I'll stay at everyone's hair. Just let me acclimate before I drive your $2-point-something million hypercar on an F1 track that I've only driven one time before. And they said, yeah, sure, it's fine. So get to the airport and I go to check in and the guy's like, I'm sorry, sir, like you're not on this flight. And I'm like, the hell I'm not. Like, I'm definitely on this flight. And as he's saying that, my phone's ringing. So I got to the airport 2 hours before the flight. So let's say the flight left at 3 p.m., right? Mm-hmm. I was there at 1 p.m. and that's my phone's ringing and it's Aston Martin in Bahrain going, hey, we're at the airport. Like, did you get on that flight? And what I had done was I looked at my email, and even though they agreed to move it up a day, I just looked at the old email, and I went a day before, or the day after, I should say. I missed the flight. I was 22 hours late. I was like, oh my God. I started panicking, freaking out. And again, I've done over 1,000,000 miles of air travel just on Delta. That's just on Delta. That's not counting what I've done in my career. My very first business trip out of college, I missed a flight. It was like the flight number was like 10:40 or something like that, and I wanted to read 10:40 a.m. even though I left the day before. But I was like, oh my god, I haven't done this in like 30 years or whatever it's been since I got out of college. I was freaking out, and then I called Aston back and I go, hey, is there any way you could put me on the flight that's leaving in 2 hours? And they go, yeah, but not business class. You're going to fly coach. And I was like, that's fine. That's totally fine. Which meant flying coach from LA to Heathrow, which meant no lounge access because it was a coach ticket, which meant 4 hours in Heathrow, which if you've ever been to Heathrow, it's not great. And not to complain too much, but they don't do gate assignments until like an hour before the flight. So I'm sitting there for 3 hours staring at a board, waiting to go. They flash it. I run to it while I'm running with about 80 other people. They change the gates while we're mid-run. So we get there. They're like, oh, no. It's been changed to that side. So we run back. And I was like, ugh. And then it's 7 hours of coach to Bahrain. So it was everything I didn't want to have happen.
Going into
but like times two. Like the stress of fucking up, a lot of coach, and then you land and you're basically driving the thing. Luckily, they put me later on in the afternoon, so I didn't drive till 2 p.m. and we got to the track at 8. But yeah, it was a wild time, wild car. And I did get a nice business flight back, so everything was actually okay.
And you happen to drive a Valkyrie. So.
Yeah, Valkyrie was cool, but man, like driving the F80 is boy, did they go wrong with this thing. Because it's oh, it looks like this. I love the way it looks. It looks absolutely killer, but it's it makes 20, I forget what it is, 22,000 pounds of downforce or 2,500 pounds. Well, so is the F80, and you can fit in it. And it's got an NA V12, but it makes less power than the total system output of the F80. The F80 is just so fun to drive, where this was anything but. Now that said, my buddy Jethro Bovington, he did drive one of these on the street, and he said on the street it becomes a riot. I have not done that. It was track only, and I don't know if I ever got the opportunity to, but if I do, I will let you all know.
Well, my experience with Aston Martin, maybe because it's not my demographic, but they haven't, the ones I've driven haven't been the most exciting performance cars to me. They don't do it for me. But I also didn't drive the Vanquish like you did. And I saw just watching that launch and listening to it, I was like, oh, this isn't like any other Aston that I've experienced before. So with that being said, I would not be surprised to get in an Aston on a racetrack and feel that something was slightly missing.
Nothing was missing. It wasn't that. And the Valkyrie is as much an Adrian Newey project as it is an Aston Martin project. In fact, it's too much of an Adrian Newey project, and not enough of an Aston project, I would say. There's not enough Aston in the car. No, it drives really well. It's just they made weird sacrifices. Newey said, okay, we're going to bolt the engine directly to the carbon tub. No dampeners, no absorption, no sound deadening, no nothing, no seats. You literally, the tub is molded as a seat. And so what it does is it just turns the tub into a giant drum, echo chamber. And so, I think the number is it's 126 decibels inside the cabin, which is I believe the space shuttle launches at 127 decibels or something like that. So it's literally deafening. So you have to drive around wearing these dorky headphones or a helmet, and they're noise canceling headphones. So even if it's it's got a great sounding V12 if you're not in the car. If you're in the car, you don't hear anything. Again, the F80 makes no noise on the outside of the car. Inside the car, you can hear the engine really well. So it's just stuff like that. They made a lot of weird compromises to the genius of Adrian Newey. Yeah, the guy's a killer F1 car designer. Arguably the greatest ever, tied with Gordon Murray for greatest of all time. Street car wise, I don't know. So that was the problem with it. And then I would say also we got to get you in some modern Astons because like
Yeah.
DBX 707 has like more character than almost any other SUV, maybe the Urus, but other than that, it's just like a blast to drive.
That
The-
is my exception. That is my exception to Aston. Also, if I keep clearing my throat, I just spent 48 hours in the desert doing the ultimate drift challenge. I have so much dust in my lungs.
It's okay. It's okay.
But yeah, the DBX, one, that's just like my favorite SUV in terms of design.
Oh, it's gorgeous,
You know,
yeah.
all the write-ups I read in terms of how it performed. I haven't driven it yet, so I know once I drive it, it might change.
It's good. It's like I said, it's just got a lot. It's dripping with character. The new Vantage Roadster, and I think that's going to trickle to the coupe. But the Vantage Roadster is just awesome. It's just like a wonderful car. They did the refresh of the coupe, which is like 650 horsepower, which is nice for an entry level sports car. It was overly stiff. The ride was like too stiff, and then they got a kind of I forget his name. I should know his name, Ian, I think something. But anyways, they got a new vehicle dynamics director, and he'd made a big change to like the transaxle mount, which I think calms that down. And he told me that that's going to carry over to the coupe. So it's good to be an awesome sports car. Think of like a, AMG GT 6.3 type thing, Porsche 911 Turbo type thing.
Got it.
Super cool. And then the Vanquish is like all singing, all dancing, all conquering, and even the DB12, which is like, a step down to Vanquish, if that makes any sense. It's awesome. So like right now they have a great product lineup. Their stock is still worth nothing. They just sold their tiny little stake in their own F1 team, so now they're out of F1. All kinds of weird stuff's happening at Aston. It's too bad because the cars are beautiful and they are great to drive and they make good noises and all that stuff. But again, like this was, it was an underwhelming. What I wanted out of the Valkyrie was what I got out of the Ferrari F80. If that makes any sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, Ferrari, they nailed that thing. Now, also Ferrari was smart. Instead of coming up with an arbitrary price 5 years before the car was made, because they're like, it's going to be $2 million, which is way less than it costs to build these things. Ferrari was just like, we're going to do 4 million euros and make 800 of them. Where Aston said, we're only going to make, oh God, I forgot the exact total. Like it's like 150 plus 85 plus 40. It's like 285 cars total. And they're like, they start at 2 million, and people put deposits down, and you can't raise the price. It's way too cheap. That's the other problem. Other reason they're having problems. And then the other thing is the Valhalla, which isn't out yet, but apparently I'm hearing, sadly, that there's not a lot of demand for it, which is kind of crazy because it's like an 800 something flat plane twin turbo V8 with big hybrid assist over 1,000 horsepower. But like, you look at like, again, and that's, I don't know the exact price, but like say it's in the $1 million neighborhood or $800,000 neighborhood. The Lambo Temerario, oh, hey, flat plane twin turbo V8, 907 horsepower. It's like 100 less, but it's a Lambo. So it's tough in the hypercar business right now, which is too bad. But I'm actually meeting with Aston CEO Adrian Hallmark at the Quail in a week from Friday. So I'll be asking him all these questions and more.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah,
Hear what he says.
Should be good. Okay, well, remember, Talking with Jonny is a Q&A show. So what I'm going to do is, you guys, and do it this week too. I said, hey, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. So I'm going to pop this open. We're going to look at the comments, and we are going to answer your questions. So let me see here. I should have set this up beforehand, but okay, view my channel. Okay, Talking with Jonny. Hey, okay, all right, let's get this going. And I responded. I should probably like print these out or something. Jesus. Here we go. Okay. G Whiz Bang. It's a bourbon question. Rarest bottle you've ever tasted. I had Red Hook Rye, and if you're a bourbon geek right now, you just launched out of your chair screaming if you know what Red Hook Rye is. But I think that's without question. the rarest bottle I've ever tasted. I believe it was Red Hook Rye 2. There's 4. I think it was number 2. Nobody had number 1. I actually just had a dinner partially prepared by Sean Brock, which will also get you bourbon geeks going crazy, but that was pretty cool. And then best bottle you've sampled this year. This year, my own bottle, the Binder Stash. It's called Invisible Swordsman. And Rylic is saying, what the hell are these words coming out of his mouth? But Invisible Swordsman, track that one down. It was super, super good. Let's see here. Okay. Mario Dalla Riva says, Ciao, Johnny. How was your shared driving of the F80 with Emiliano recently? Looked like a blast. He's a fast driver and a fast talker. Yeah, he's an awesome driver. So Emiliano is Italy's biggest YouTuber. And I love the guy. We had a blast. And yeah, he was absolutely crazy. Now, it turns out he's like a very experienced hill climb guy who just goes nuts and goes for it. And it's hysterical to watch him work because he's just constantly like, if this is his camera, he's driving, he's like, I can't do Italian, but, you know, mamma mia, and then mamma mia, and constantly moving the camera around himself and hanging out the window. And like, it was crazy. Total one-man band. Really cool to watch him work. And I mean, he is just such a great driver. It was such a treat and a privilege to drive with someone like that, who really just grabs the car and it's like beats it up and doesn't care that it's like a 4-point-whatever million car. He just wrings its neck, which I thought was very cool. Okay, here's one. This is from Chester. Says, would like to see a video of you at Villa d'Este at Lake Como. Yeah. Next year, like you did with Goodwood. More car event videos. Sort of already talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I answered him. I said, the Villa d'Este Concours d'Elegance is an incredibly hard ticket to get, or hard thing to get invited to. BMW, they do that. And I went once, and I think they wait like a while to invite you back again. But absolutely, I would love to do it. I know Pininfarina, they were there the year I was there. But it's a BMW and a Long & Son of the watch company, kind of like they're the permanent sponsors until they aren't, but they're the sort of the permanent sponsors. But as far as other Walking with Jonny videos go, yeah, we're gonna do those. We got the Cars and Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Helms Bakery Cars and Coffee. We kind of filmed half one, and then you felt there wasn't enough for a full episode.
Yeah, that was the second one. And so, you know, we're just kind of getting our footing there and seeing how it looks. I mean, the great thing is like the turnout was awesome, and people were so receptive of it and excited for the next one that it let me know that we're going to get amazing content the next time around.
And the next time is September 21st. It's definitely happening. So September 21st, we'll do the next Helms Bakery, and we'll film that, and that'll be part of this series.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine just keep doing them. It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think what helps with these a lot is like a lot of people, you know, they're not able to make these events for one reason or another. Not saying Hells specifically, but people are always curious about like, hey, what's it like to go to car meets, you know, and you have to remember like a lot of your audience, while there is a huge car community where we are right now, there are a lot of people in other states and their
countries.
Yeah, they're in countries, and their car meets, their car events don't really look like this. They might, you know, what is a typical Friday, that might be their like thing for the year. So it's just cool for them to be able to see what it looks like. And people really love like a day in the life of, like, even if it's, you know, a quick little bit.
I'll do my morning routine, which is get woken up at 4:30 by my kid, stumble around in the dark, looking at my phone for 3 hours, make coffee, sit on the couch, wait for him. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
But it'll be fun to film. And you know, look, and again, I know, and I don't always appreciate it, but I know how spoiled we are in Southern California. Like, I posted like an Instagram picture a couple months ago, like, man, Friday traffic, and it was me stuck behind Tosin Abassi in his like race car GT3. I mean, I think just crazy modded GT3. I believe it was a yellow Cobra, and then a red Ferrari 355, and we got stuck behind like a Prius or whatever you get stuck behind. But it was like, you know, ridiculous. I think I was in the Toyota, but it was like just a ridiculous photo. And I get how rare and crazy that is that we do that every Friday.
Like,
Yeah. All right. Broke and Square. Broken Square says, okay, after all this uproar about the recent crop of plug-in hybrid performance cars, i.e. M5, F80, 296, Temerario, Vuelto, etc., how do you feel they stack up to their predecessors? Oh, that's a good question.
mm-hmm.
Obviously, the weight gain is unfortunate, but I have a feeling people will change their minds once they've been behind the wheel. Well, you're talking to the right guy. Interesting question. You know, it's like when I shut my eyes and think of the 296 specifically, I don't even know it's a hybrid. I remember driving that thing and just being like, this is the best car I've ever driven. And I felt that way until I drove the F80, but there was just nothing hybrid about it. And the F80 is real similar. The F80 is not even a PHEV. It's just, as you said, a hybrid performance car. So I think it's so seamless and it so doesn't affect anything that I think haters are hating because they don't like EVs for all the usual reasons. And then you get into the Lambos like the Revuelto and the Temerario, and I'm lucky I've driven them both. I mean, that Revuelto, it's just, you know, everything that was lacking in the Aventador, the Revuelto has, which is like an extra 200 horsepower or 250 horsepower, plus a decent transmission. I mean, again, the ISR is cool, but around town it does suck, and they fixed that. I would say in the case of the Revuelto, like, it does start up in EV mode, which is cool. It'd be nice if you had the option to start it up in V12 mode and you could do a setting. Having it always start up in EV mode maybe reminds people too much that it's an EV or, you know, plug-in hybrid. The Temerario, it is a plug-in, but I don't believe, I think it always starts with the engine on. It's a different strategy. Yeah, the engine's just not as loud as an NA V12 firing up, so they don't have to worry about noise regulations as much. I think that might be, I think give people the option if you're going to have both powertrains anyways. And then M5, I guess we'll talk about the weight gain with the M5. Like, yeah, that one is real heavy. But man, you just, from behind the wheel, you just don't notice it. And this is kind of always the case with EVs because it's heavy, but it's where the weight is. Like, it's not heavy up top. It's like heavy down below. And you're just lowering the center of gravity, which I think inherently helps performance. And so the cars just feel stickier. So again, it becomes like an academic exercise where like, oh, I don't like it because I know how heavy it is. But it's like, it's not really affecting the bottom line in terms of performance. Efficiency might go down because it's too heavy. Power to weight, you know, you might lose a little bit in like 0 to 60 acceleration, but as everyone points out, who cares? You know, Tesla ruined acceleration. It's, you know, that doesn't matter anymore for whatever reason. So yeah, I just think it's one of those things. Again, go back 20 years, hybrids were the absolute devil. Today, EVs are the absolute devil, and a lot of people like that hybrid's the solution. In 20 years, everything will be electric except for a couple of V12s. So that's the, I think, maybe the ultimate answer. I don't know if you have any
so
to kick in.
for me, for a long time, I was kind of against hybrids because I felt for a while that I wanted you to pick a lane, right? I wanted you to commit to combustion or fully EV. I didn't want anything in the middle, but as I started driving more of the modern hybrids, like the examples we were talking about, I realized like the point of being a hybrid is like bringing in the best of both worlds, and that you should be introducing something that's dynamic to that car. So meaning the hybrid should be supplementing and like complementing that car for wherever its weak point might be, right? Or wherever it could be better at. So as long as the hybrid is adding to, for example, you could look at the versions where it's like, hey, we've used it sort of to keep like in terms of like electrification with the turbo to make sure that there's no turbo lag, and that's how you're using your type of hybrid system, right? There can be other ways or other applications with different cars, how you might apply it to a SUV or a different car where it's like, hey, this is actually going to help with the people that are like, I want to get in this vehicle, but the efficiency sucks, right?
Yeah, no.
So I think as long as it's adding to and it makes like a true difference, then I fully support a hybrid. But outside of that, it just it needs to be bold in whatever it is doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I always say, like, if you look at the Toyota Prius Prime, for instance, I hate it. It's great when the battery's charged and you're driving around in electric mode, and the second that 2 liter, whatever it is, 2.4 liter Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder kicks on, you have this dog slow, vibrating, weak car. So I'm kind of against plug-in hybrid. I'm definitely pick a lane. I think the M5, honestly, like, they wanted to keep a V8 in there. Well, with, like, forget about this country, but the rest of the world, if you want to keep that V8, you got to hybridize it to get around emissions laws. So, if they wanted a V8, this is the route they had to go. It'd be honestly better as an EV. Take the powertrain out of the i7 M70, put that in the M5 Touring. Woo! Man, do you have a car.
I don't know if you already knew this, but I learned over from a few buddies that are in France, and the reason why a lot of the hybrids exist for the cars in the UK is that additional tax or whatever that you have on it, and so it's like a workaround for that, because I guess like for some of these cars, like the tax that you pay sometimes could almost be as much as the price point of the car in the hybrid.
True. Yeah,
like,
there's definitely tax implications, but there's also, like, just CO2 emissions laws, and it just doing the V8 wouldn't work anymore. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. This is from Michael Borragiero 6025.
doing great.
Yeah. Okay. What would you like to see Porsche do with its next Hypercar 918 Spider successor? Interesting. I think it was supposed to be the Mission X, and the timing kind of made sense. But, like, look, if you go back to the Holy Trinity, the hybrids, LaFerrari P1 and 918 Spider, well, Ferrari's replacement's already out. We've seen the McLaren W1, which is the P1 successor, and I think it was supposed to be the Mission X. And then I think there's just not a market for, like, multi-million-dollar pure EVs for whatever reason. And I think they had to go back to the drawing board. So I'm not sure what you're going to see, because the 918 Spider sort of already did the hybrid performance thing. You could get a case of like the LaFerrari to the F80, and so it's going to gain some power, a refinement of that formula. I don't know, what would I like to see? Yeah, I'd like to see something like that. I haven't honestly given it too much thought. I don't know, do you have any what you'd like to see?
I know for sure that I want to see a motor that isn't applicable to the other models. Like, so, for example, you have a bunch of like flat six variants, and like you could do 4 cylinders. I want to see like go big and bad. So either you have like something that's an 8 or a 10. I'm sure they're not going back to 10, right? Like those are the I haven't really seen anybody reintroducing 10 cylinders in a while.
No.
I mean, that could be something cool, but I don't see them going that way. But I do know whatever motor it is, I want it to be something that is like exclusive to that, on top of however else you're gonna.
And they have a history of that. So, like, the Carrera GT was a 10-cylinder. The 19 Spider was its own V8, 4.6 liter flat plane crank V8, naturally aspirated. So, yeah, I would say, they're probably going to take the motor out of the 963. It might be kind of like more related to the F80, where it's the endurance race car. Take the 963. They did make that one-off street version of 963 look terrible. Let's see a much better design on something. But yeah, if you took that and then gave it like way more power, because as a race car, it's like 500 watts, or kilowatts, which is 670 horsepower. It's like Z06 power. So obviously you're gonna want to be in the 1200 horsepower range. Yeah, something like that would be interesting, because I believe that is a V8 with turbos. So twin turbo, hot V, as they say, V8, or hot V, as they actually say it in German. And yeah, it'd be cool, but it's gonna need some design, because the Carrera GT and the 19 Spider were beautiful cars. So
You know, another point on that I
yeah,
would want to see. I do appreciate like how a lot of the hypercars now we're getting into these horsepower ranges that were like crazy to think of before. Like they existed only in the aftermarket space, and like
yeah.
everybody's kind of like 1,000 plus.
Hmm.
It would be cool to see that as like being. I know this sounds crazy, but that being the standard for hypercars, right? Like all of these hypercars are 1,000 plus. Like you're doing insane. Just see, like, let us see what are the technical feats that you can do to make a street legal version of like these insane outputs to
Hmm.
make it still drivable on the streets, like still like abiding by not the laws, but you know what I mean, like the what are the words I'm looking for?
I
It's
don't
gone.
know.
It's gone. It's
Okay,
gone. The
moving
caffeine.
on. Scar Scar Black 44 says, "Would you rather have a new GR Corolla Circuit? We'll get to that in a second. Or a 997 4S if they were for the same money in the Midwest?" Well, interesting. You can't get a new Circuit because they're out of production. So now it's called. I think I actually heard one being dropped off as we're filming, but now it's the GR Corolla Performance Plus or Premium Plus or Premium Performance, something like that, or a 997 4S. Well, then you have to ask the question: is it a 997.1 or 997.2? I was on the launch of the 997. Was I .2? I can't remember if I was on that launch one. Anyhow, driven them extensively. Would you rather have? That's a very weird question. Initial thoughts on your end?
The GR is just so much fun. Like I love Porsches, but the GR is so much fun. And this is personal to me. If I'm doing a 997, I'm going the GT spec. I'm doing like a GT3.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I personally don't want it in the forest form. So between those two, I would say the GR Corolla.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go 911. Although I love a GR Corolla, and I guess Midwest, you're saying that because of snow or something like that. Yeah, I would probably go 997 4S if it was really the same money. Yeah, all right. Let's see. King Jaff says, "Can you give us a 10-minute on Tumble Home?" Tumble Home. All right, I'll give you like 10 seconds on Tumble Home. So tumble home, it's a nautical term. So basically, whatever this is called, tumble home is the opposite. So it's this. So if you think about a Lamborghini Countach, if you're looking at the front of the Countach, the glass, the side glass is like this. It's so extreme the windows can't even roll down because windows drop into a door. There's so much tumble home that you have to have those little glass within the glass that opens up. And then the opposite of that would be the Fiat Multipla, where it's the ugliest car ever made because it has no tumble home. The walls are straight up, and it just to our eyes looks awful. For whatever reason, we find circular objects, not square objects, appealing or sensual or whatever. So when you have absolutely no tumble home and you have no side rake to the glass, you get the Fiat Multipla. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. It's horrendous. Okay, what are I can't even pronounce this. X Ballpark Hippo 9X9. Who cares? He doesn't care. What are your favorite dials dashboard ever fitted to a car? Boy, if we had like 5 to pick from. Look, Bugatti. Bugatti, all Bugattis, Mistral especially with the little elephant in glass. But yeah, it's hard to get past a 500 kilometer per hour speedometer staring at you in the face. It's a good reminder of why you purchased the car.
Yeah, I honestly, this is the first one I'm not gonna be able to answer. Like that's a hard one to choose.
I'd also say classic 911, the 5 classic gauges. That's all-time great design. And Mercedes Gullwing is also incredibly alluring. The Gullwing more so than the Roadster. They made subtle changes, but I love the Gullwing dash. It's just so it's like deco, but it didn't have the exuberance of American deco dashes. Has that like restrained post-war German, like still getting back on our feet thing, yet it was still elegant. Like that was quite good.
It's a tough one. I really, it's not that exciting, but just for me aesthetically, it's something about the 355.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
F355.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. Absolutely. Beautiful. Okay, couple more here. All right, this is from Kareem Rehani. Mr. Rehani asks, do you think Ferrari and Lamborghini would benefit from making a Chiron Mistral rival? I mean, a more bespoke, handmade hypercar. I'm sure they could use the SF90 Revuelto platforms and undercut Bugatti, but would people buy those cars? Thanks and love the channel. Well, I would say they sort of do that. I think the thing, and again, it's one of those weird things. The more I'm around Bugattis, I realize how special Bugattis are, and it's really easy to be cynical and be like, "Yeah, they're $5 billion because suckers will pay that," you know. But again, and I just had the really rare opportunity. I was at the factory. I walked around the factory. I saw what goes into making these things, the extra care and attention to detail, the hand built nature of that factory. You know, like I think Bugatti makes 85 cars a year, and like Pagani makes 40. So it's like double the output of Pagani, yet it's like Volkswagen Group. Like they have all the capacity and engineering prowess in the world, and they barely double what Pagani does, who's this obscure boutique little brand. So they really are hand built in a way that like Ferrari and Lamborghini aren't set up for. Like the F80, they're going to build 799 of them. Well, the Chiron was 500 over an 8-year period, and then they're building, 40 Bolides, 40 Divos, and 100 Mistrals. So they're going to make more F80s than Bugatti has made in the last decade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't just do a Bugatti. You got to like really plan it out. I will say though, again, customers are similar, and one last point is that Lamborghini, I think they call them now like few offs, which maybe sounds better in Italian. Like the Centenario and the Sienne, they're going to be like the few offs, and we should see a new few off model at the Quail, and it'll be a multi-million-dollar car on the Revuelto platform, and I think it'll work for what it is.
Do you not consider the F80 to be like, I guess what I'm looking at is like what separates the Chiron from those? Like, is it because it's going after this tops, like it's the 300 plus criteria, right? Because I think like when you look at the price point,
Back to the dive watch.
okay.
So, am I ever going to take this thing 300 feet underwater? Absolutely not. Is it overbuilt to a place where you could? Yes. Am I ever going to take my Chiron 300 plus to 304 miles an hour? No, because from the factory, they actually take that car and limit it to 273. But also, trust me, I've gone 245 miles an hour on a Chiron. It's very difficult to go that fast, but it's overbuilt in a way that you just don't get from cars that aren't supposed to go that fast. A couple, for instances, it's hard to really explain without showing it, but like, okay, so here's the front fender of the car, and here's the door, right? So when this door shuts at like 250 miles an hour, if that sheet metal were to pop open a little bit, it would rip off. It would just rip the side of the car off, which would be a really bad thing to happen at 250. So there's actually like special parts in there that like hold the door, the again, the hinge part that hold that hinge shut. It's just stuff like that. The suspension is so over-engineered because it has to be able to like do stuff at 300 miles an hour. So it's not a matter of it's just real fast. It's that it's built to go real fast. So there really is a tangible, you can feel it, qualitative difference, even between the F80, which again, great car, totally worth the money, love it, but it's just not a Bugatti.
Okay. I was
Does that
asking.
make sense?
Yeah, I was asking because I'm vicariously have been in the F80 like through your eyes, and you said it's the best car you've ever driven.
Best driving car, yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. Again, that said, if you said here's a F80 and here's that Mistral that I just drove, take one, I would take the Mistral. I'd be, man, bro, What a thing.
I can only imagine. I'll be doing it in Horizon 5.
Yeah. What a thing. So I think they kind of already, they're not undercutting Bugatti because you can't on a quality perspective. But they got cars in that price range. And look, does the Lamborghini brand have enough equity to support a $5 million super low production car? I think it does. Problem is, Bugatti and Lamborghini report to the same master, right? They're both owned by Volkswagen Group. So you don't maybe really want to steal Bugatti purchases away. Maybe you do. I don't know. I don't know how it works. Okay. User H211. Which car would you bring back to the time of the Pilgrims, ancient Egypt, another time in the past, to garner the most reaction? Whether it's scaring them with the demonic Aventador SVJ or shock of a Tesla Model S Plaid's capabilities.
I already know.
Please.
I'm doing the revolt though. The reason being is I'm gonna come in there silent. They're gonna be like, "What the hell is this?" And then turn the motor on.
Yes. I'll just go with a DeLorean. All right. Let's see. Let's do 3 more. How about that? All right. Okay. When will people see the value in Seikos? I have a 60s Seiko Crown Special myself. Nice watch. Which I'm not looking to sell, but I can't believe they aren't more appreciated in the market. Hell yeah, brother. They won't. It's one of those things where two reasons why. One, it's Japanese, and it's just sort of like Japanese versus European cars. You'll get a couple, R34s going for wild money, but not many. People just want the Ferrari badge, even though arguably, if you took a R35 GTR against whatever the contemporary Ferrari was at the time, it would like smack it around, take its lunch money, steal its girlfriend, all that. It was just a better car in every way, but it said Nissan on it. And then the other one is they Grand Seiko. They shot themselves. So in other words, like as great as Seikos are, you're always going to have this other brand lurking above it. And people say, well, why would I pay crazy money for a Seiko when I can pay the same money for a Grand Seiko? Even though they're different companies essentially, and they just do different things. So yeah, I just don't think you'll ever, realize great economic value in Seikos. There's awesome value. There's awesome enjoyment to be had from them. I mean, some of my favorite watches, I have an Emperor Tuna, which is probably my favorite watch I own. Honestly, I love that thing. Man, walking into the Seiko shops in Tokyo wearing an Emperor Tuna is like just having the biggest dick in the room. People are just like, oh, it was such a wild feeling. Like, do you have one of these? Like, oh no, tuna, Emperor Tuna. It was people were going crazy. And then I have the Pogue. I have the Seiko Pogue, which is like, again, like I paid literally nothing. This crazy man named Mike gave it to me, but like, $3,000 for like the nicest one that isn't the actual one that went to space. Yeah, I mean, Commander Pogue's a great watch, that should be worth way more, especially mine, I think is like a 71. Like, yeah, it's great. So, it's a wonderful watch. I just don't think we're going to see the value from an economic point of view.
I'll ask real quick. If you were bringing Seiko to market, what would you say would be the number one way you would position it? What is the reason to put a Seiko on your wrist?
That's a great question. See, that's the problem with manufacturers like that, is because they are willing to get down and dirty and sell a $150 watch. It's really tough to say, and it's so broad. They do so many things, but I guess you just know you're getting a quality timepiece, just like that Seiko, over a corresponding Casio or Citizen, which are the other big Japanese brands. It should just be a better watch. It should be more accurate. They should have better technology. They should have better craftsmanship. G-Shock kind of knocks that one a little askew because G-Shocks are rad. That's a whole nother can of worms. I own about too many G-Shocks. But yeah, it's again, as an advertiser, it'd be really hard. But again, it's something that the West struggles with. Like Toyota in Japan, there's actually 4 levels of Toyota dealership you go to. Imagine instead of going to a Chevy dealership for all things Chevy, you go to the cheap Toyota dealership for the cheap stuff. You go to the next one for the next stuff. You go to this one for like the Lexus stuff, and then you go to this one for the really good stuff, which is like the Century. And we can't understand this in America. We can't understand that you could have a Corolla and a Century from the same company. We got to invent a word like Cadillac, even though the Chevy Blazer EV and the Cadillac Lyric are the same car. We cannot digest it without the Cadillac badge. Whereas in Japan, you could have the Corolla, you could have a K car, 660cc Toyota, and the big Century. And the Emperor drives around the Century, and no one has a problem with that. Works in Europe. Volkswagen Phaeton totally makes sense next to a Polo. In America, we couldn't wrap our heads around it. Got to put an Audi or a Bentley badge on it to make sense. So we don't do stealth wealth. We can't figure that out. You can't be in the know. You got to have this big blingy shiny beepy
Got
thing.
it.
You know,
Got
you
it.
got to have a big blingy shiny beepy car. In Europe, people cut the badges off their cars so you don't know what it is. In America, you go get M badges and put them on your M28 or your 328. Your 328. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just different mentalities. Okay, let's see. We have one more or 2 more. What do you think?
I wear contacts.
2 more. We're gonna do 2 more. All right, this is it. Fellow Cheesehead from Matchsticks4. Cheesehead means I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I'm assuming you don't watch football.
Not no more.
Okay. I heard the Honda E prototype that was first revealed to the public was built after the nearly production-ready one that the press tour junket it hit the press tour junket prior to it going on sale. Is it common for new car designs to work in reverse like that? No. But what do you mean? Hang on. Are you following this? The E prototype that was first revealed to the public was built after. I'm not even understanding this question.
I think what he's saying is,
Yeah. If you're watching this far in the video, we apologize. I think what he's saying is that they saw the car, they greenlit the car, then they designed it. Is it common? And I'm going to say, yeah, sure. I'll give you an example with the Porsche Mission E, which became the Taycan. They showed it, the prototype in Paris. Micha Boykert, who's the head of design for Lamborghini, that was his car. And it was just a smash. People loved that design. And then they figured out how to actually make a production version of it. It usually goes very badly. They're usually much worse. The Jaguar, the last S-Type was a great example of that. The original S-Type was beautiful. The Ian Callum concept car, and then they just totally like did it in, cost cut it to death for the production car. So, but yeah, that's fairly common.
yeah, I felt like that was the standard in what I've seen with, concept cars in general. It's really just to present a concept and see what the reception is. And
Could be. I mean, a lot of times they will show the production car
Yes.
with like bad mirrors and wheels that are too big.
yes,
A lot of times they'll just show a design language study like that Jaguar that everyone went crazy about. That was just kind of showing like, hey, this is what the brand's products are going to look like in the future should they survive. That was never intended to be a production car. So concept cars can do all sorts of things, and sometimes they are to gauge reaction. I mean, they're always to gauge reaction, but. All right, last question. Let's see here. We'll do this one. Here's a big one. All right. Greh HH wants to know, what do you think Stellantis can do to save themselves? Boy, that's a multi-billion-dollar question.
Stop being Stellantis. Like, it's just so much for here. This is my purview. You are the professional in this space. I think when I look at that company, what I'm seeing at least is that, and this is probably not going to make sense, but there are a lot of corporate decisions taking priority over creative decisions. And what I mean by that is like they forget the identity and the heritage that comes along with some of these brands within them. So you look at what Alpha is. Alpha feels like a Chrysler rather than feeling like what Alphas should feel like out here. You look at what they're doing with like the Chrysler products, it's not really making sense. You just rolled out SRT again, like that shouldn't. It's so many things that I'm seeing where it's like, oh, you compromise this or you went conservatively here when some of these brands that you're representing, they're all about being big and bold and bad. Like that's Dodge's things. Like you push forward, you push the envelope. And I think there's like I don't know what it is because there's so many brands sitting under them. If it's just identity crisis across the board and they're figuring out like how to make it make sense in terms of like, you know, making the dollar make sense across the board, like with the balance sheets and everything. But it just the right creative decisions aren't there. And I don't want to say this is strictly a problem with them because you see it with some of the other brands. Like we're seeing it right now with Nissan. I love them to death, but you're forgetting your consumer base. You're forgetting who you are, and like the decisions are not lining up. And I think people aren't able to see a through line or really able to see clearly where you're headed. Like
Right.
we don't have a roadmap for y'all, right? And we should.
Well, that's a good point. Like, do they have a roadmap? And what I'm saying is, like, it was hard enough doing an Italian American company with FCA, and now you add in the French, and they have 16 brands. I mean, GM, when they had 8 brands, they had to go bankrupt and restructure into 4. And that kind of worked, although Buick still doesn't really work in the U.S. and GMC with Chevy don't really need it, but that's another story. So, you know, it's just sort of like too many brands. And again, like if you look at Alfa Romeo, not counting the Tonale, which is okay, but like the Giulia and the Stelvio were awesome. They were just great. No one was that interested, although I still see quite a few Giulias and Stelvios, but they're mostly good lease deals. You look at Maserati right now, like Maserati has one of the strongest product portfolios, strictly from a product point of view. Not talking about people on the internet screaming depreciation or anything like that. You look at the Grecale. I dare you to find me a better driving SUV than the Grecale Trofeo. You look at the new Gran Turismo, like gorgeous, drives incredible. The EV version, I haven't driven it, but I hear it's even better than the identical looking gas version. So you can actually have a choice of which one you want. You know, the Quattroportes, you know, still pretty good. Yeah, the Ghibli is kind of old at this point, but they did make that one that goes 211 miles an hour or whatever. Like, that's pretty cool. So, like, they have a strong portfolio. Nobody buys them. So it's like, well, if you tell them to make better cars, like, that's not really the issue, at least like on that end. Chrysler's down to a minivan. Like, what? Like, well, maybe it's time to kill that. But there's somebody in Detroit saying no, or Auburn Hills like, no, don't kill it. Like, So I don't know if it's salvageable. I mean, you know, we're always going to come back and say like, hey, Jeep's a good brand, Ram's a good brand. I don't think Chrysler's a good brand anymore. And again, like as great as Maserati is, like, you know, MC20, I don't know if it's a good brand anymore because no one will buy it. So you know, and then like the other problem I think is, at least in the U.S., you have like, you know, Peugeot and Citroën, which is probably like what the people in the boardroom in Paris, or wherever Stellantis is headquartered, think about the most is Peugeot and Citroën. They're not sold here. So you've got the most profitable market in the world, U.S., where you don't sell like the you know, tip of your spear. I just see that as like just a bad idea. So I don't know what the answer is. Stop being Stellantis. What you said initially, sadly, might be the play.
Wish them the best. I love Alphas. I'm obsessed with them, and I want to see them do well out here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bring back the Viper. All right. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Remember, this is a Q&A show underneath it all. If you have a question, drop it down below. If you think we said something wonderful or horrible or whatever, drop it down below. And like and share and subscribe and all those good things. And again, crossed 8,000 subscribers. I'm very happy about that. And we will catch you next Tuesday on another episode of Talking with Jonny.
Awesome.
Cool.
That probably ran longer than your usual ones.